evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. And welcome to our 2021 graduation for the United Excel Social Justice class. On behalf of our pastor and first lady, I would like to welcome you here to United Christian Faith Ministries. Now, tonight, you will get to participate in what we call our first session of Common Grounds. We had the wonderful opportunity for the Magnolia Police Force to come to us and say, hey, you know what? We want to do some great things in the community. We want to have some conversations with residents, and we would like to work with you all on doing this event. And it was a wonderful opportunity for us. So when he came to me, I was like, okay, we do these all the time. How can we get some research and make effective changes in the community? So for those of you who are online, there's a survey link. If you could take a few minutes and click that link and fill out those survey questions for us, it would be very, very helpful. Also, for you who are here in the sanctuary, we have included a survey instrument for you. You can do it with a pencil, or you can simply scan that barcode, and you can do it online as well. What we want to do is not to just have listening sessions just to be having listening sessions, but we want to take this rich data that we're collecting tonight and actually try to bring about change. So we're going to take a few minutes and give you all an opportunity to take that survey, and Nicole will come back and get our program started. Again, if you're online, just click that link and take that survey. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that separating line. I'm wading through muddy waters. You know I got a made up mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on the way to salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going.
Good evening. If you don't mind, let's rest on our feet real quickly so we can open up in prayer. All heads are bowed. Great God that you are, we say thank you. Thank you for waking us up this morning, God, and thank you for clothing us in our right mind, God, giving us the activity of our limbs, Father. We thank you for how you have carried us and covered us and watched over us throughout this day, Father. God, we ask that as we come into this place, God, tonight, Lord God, that you would unify our hearts, that we will come together, Lord God, that your name will be glorified, and that we'll find solutions to continue to do the work that you have called us to do in the hedges and the highways. We ask that you would bless each and every person that has sacrificed to be here tonight. We ask that you would bless the panel And we ask right now, God, that you would give us solutions and wisdom and insight, God, that we may continue to serve you and continue to see your glory rest in the earth. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Our scripture reading tonight is coming from Psalms 89, 14 and 15 in the NIV. And the word of the Lord declares, righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Steadfast love and faithfulness go before you. Blessed are those who have learned to acclaim you, those who walk in the light of your presence, O Lord. Join me at this time in welcoming Dr. Christy Perry again to the stage. Come on, can we put our hands together for Dr. Perry?
Thank you so much, Pastor Scott. Pastor Nicole will be graduating tonight from United Excel, and we are so excited. You all may have a seat. I am so excited to be here today. This year, we had a wonderful spring 2021 class of students who went through our social justice program. And as I mentioned earlier, when Brian contacted us to be a part of this, it was a perfect opportunity because what we wanted to do this year was to create sort of a capstone project to make sure that students who are graduating from the class are actively doing something or actively engaged in the community right out the door. And so this year, they put on this wonderful listen and learn project for you all tonight. But before we do that, we're going to do a graduation. The year 2020 has brought light to many of the inequities that we face in the United States. COVID-19 has kind of highlighted some of those issues, particularly as it relates to our healthcare system, as it relates to our criminal justice system, and as it relates to even our employment and labor force. And so a lot of people, especially too, also in 2020, we saw a lot going on with police brutality across the United States. When you think about it, we don't really think about how heavy it is to watch people die before our eyes on television. Well, it kind of, a lot of people decided that, you know what, this is an area. So it ignited the passion of people to join the social justice fight. And so this year, we had the wonderful opportunity of individuals to go through the class and complete the class so that they can be more actively engaged with the tools and information that they need to fight social justice. Now, this class is a 7-week-long class, and I like to talk. Can you all tell? I do. I love to talk. So the class is from 6 to 8, and they kind of have to pull my coattail, like social media type of way, to stop the class. But I'm telling you, they were phenomenal in doing that and making sure that they were there, they participated in the course. Now, just to give you a little bit about the course, again, the course is 7 weeks long. We read books. One of the books that we read was Michelle Alexander, The New Jim Crow. So I know a lot of you may be familiar with that. We did MLK's speech, a couple of MLK's speech, but particularly Letter from Birmingham, because we want to talk about social justice, but our emphasis is on biblical justice. And so we make sure to focus on biblical justice. And so I think MLK's letter, he really, really does that when he talks to the church. What else we do, y'all? 7 weeks. Operation Breadbasket. That's another book. You know they remember the books, right? Operation Breadbasket, of course, is another book that we made particular instances on. We also studied social movements. What makes a social movement successful? We even went over some social movements that were unsuccessful and why. We also studied the civil rights movement. Where are we today in the civil rights movement? Students must know that. And one of the most important things, which I think a lot of students had a great appreciation for, was the civil rights history right here in the city of Baton Rouge. A lot of people are just not aware of all of the activities and things that we do here in this city alone. And so the students were able to complete that class. And so we are going to recognize those students. But before we recognize the students, I can talk about how great the class was because our team kind of helped, create the curriculum. But we'll take a moment and let Justin tell us a little bit about how he enjoyed that class. And after that, we'll have Sister Donna to come up and introduce our graduates.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have been a part of the United Excel program here at United Christian Faith Ministries. I am just thankful for all of the great books that we read. They were so informative. All of the training that we received on social movements, the history of social change in the Black community. And I'm just so glad for the collaborative research that we did, collaborative presentations that we did, and the coming together that truly happened as a part of this 7-week program. We were joined in our class by people who are members of the police department, people who are community activists, people who are just all around the community, who are all doing the work, and who want to do the work and want to learn how to do the work to create real change. Social activism is important. We live in an age where a lot of people are slacktivists and not activists, but this class is really showing us how to really put our money, and put our action where we want to actually create change. And we're going to make a real impact. And as I think about everything I learned in this class, from the real-time training, from the books and the initiatives that we all learned, I want to take everything that I learned on with me into my next chapter. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of this, and thank you to the whole United Excel team. And I look forward to being a part of the team and taking us to the next chapter as we all fight for change.
Okay, at this time, we're going to get ready to call our graduates up by name. We have 10 graduates this year. This is our spring 2021 class. And we have 6 who are present here tonight, and we have 4 who's not, but we will be showing their picture on the screen as we call their name. So we can get ready. Okay, our first graduate is Charmaine Alston, and she is a member of United Christian Faith Ministries. Okay, her favorite scripture for social justice is Amos 5:24, and she is interested in working in the area of marketing and media in the United Excel Social Justice Ministry. All right, our next graduate is Tammy Boone. Tammy is a member of Jericho International Ministries. Her favorite social justice scripture is Proverbs 31, verse 8 through 9. And her area of interest for the ministry is listen and learn. DeHaven Durancelet, member of United Christian Faith Ministry. His favorite social justice scripture is Galatians 2:20, and he is interested in working in film and festival area of our ministry. Justin Franklin, who you just saw on the screen, he's a member of United Christian Faith Ministries. Favorite social justice scriptures, Proverbs 31:9, and he is interested in our town hall and newsletter department. Latoya Jefferson, member of Gloryland Baptist Church, and her favorite social justice scripture is Proverbs 31, verse 8 through 9, and she is interested in the listen and learn part of the social justice ministry. Kowalski Lee, United Christian Faith Ministry member. Favorite social justice scripture is Psalms 118, verse 17, and he is interested in serving in our listen and learn part of the ministry. Corin Monson, perfect attendance. Favorite social justice scripture is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 15, and he is interested in working in our marketing and media department. LaQuinta Palmer, perfect attendance. Member of United Christian Faith Ministry. Favorite social justice scripture is Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. She is interested in serving in our town hall and newsletter department. Nicole Scott, member of Logo Center of Deliverance Ministries. Favorite social justice scripture is Isaiah chapter 56, verse 1. She is interested in working in our listening and learn department. And last but not least, Brenda Turner, perfect attendance. United Christian Faith Ministry member. Favorite social justice scripture is Romans 12, verse 19, and she will be working in our listening and learn department. You can congratulate our graduates here. Okay, at this time, we're going to get ready to move on into the next part of our program here, which is the panelist. And Corin is going to be introducing that section. He's going to read the bios for the moderator and the panelists at this time. One last hand clap for our graduates. They've been a great class.
Good evening, y'all. I was presented with the opportunity to present the panelists for the discussion tonight. There's a disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by the participants of this panel tonight are solely those of the participants and do not reflect the official policy, positions, or statements of any law enforcement organization or government entity. As I present the panelists, may y'all please come up as well? All right, so I will first start off with the moderator tonight, which is the pastor of this church tonight, well, the pastor of this church. Dr. Mark A. Ellis Sr. is an inspired, Dr. Mark A. Ellis Sr. is an inspired leader, writer, musician, business practitioner, pastor, and evangelist who has extensively traversed this nation, sharing God's word and kingdom principles with people of all races and backgrounds. Ellis's messages have been the source of inspiration and transformation and salvation to people all across the world. Dr. Ellis graduated from the University of Southern Miss with a major in business administration, Columbia University of New York, and Darden Business School of Virginia, with executive MBA certificates. In addition, Ellis attended Interdenominational Theological Center and SB Seminary, receiving a doctorate of divinity in 2006. In 2018, he received a Boston College certificate in nonprofit leadership. Dr. Ellis founded United Christian Faith Ministries in 2001 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Under his leadership, the church has grown to over 2,000 members with over 40 active ministries. In 2014, Dr. Ellis founded the Southeast Alliance of Churches, a fellowship and support system for pastors and congregations in the Mississippi-Louisiana area. Ellis is happily married to the First Lady, Mary S. Ellis, and they have 4 children. Dr. Ellis' work experience includes 20-plus years in sales and marketing as Vice President of Sales and Operations at Pitney & Bowes Incorporated, a Fortune 500 company based in Stamford, Connecticut. Chief Operating Officer of the historic Rainbow Push Coalition Incorporated in Chicago, Illinois, my bad, y'all. uh, and a private business consult in the SMB market, helping organizations excel at talent development, organizational alignment, sales and revenue growth, and customer satisfaction and retention. That is Dr. Mark A. Ellis. All right, with our first panelist, it will be Detective Sandra Watts. Detective Sandra Watts is a 13-year-old veteran with the Baton Rouge Police Department, currently assigned to the Homicide Division. She is an Army veteran who served during the Gulf War with tours in Germany and Honduras. She is a proud mother of 2 Marine veterans and grandmother of 3. Detective Watts is an avid runner who has run marathons worldwide, including Paris, France, Berlin, Germany, and Budapest, Hungary. She is running a marathon in Antarctica this December, hoping to become the first African-American female from Louisiana to do so. Our next panelist is Captain Frederick L. Thomas. Captain Frederick Thomas serves as commander of the Scotlandville substation for the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He has been in the field of law enforcement for over 30 years. Captain Thomas joined the Sheriff's Office after receiving his bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Grambling State University in 1989. Captain Thomas is also a graduate of the Northwestern University Center for Public Safety School of Police Staff and Command, and holds a master's degree in criminal justice from Southern University. Thomas began his career at the Office of Corrections and later transferred to Uniform Patrol after completing the LSU Basic Law Enforcement Academy. Currently, Captain Thomas is an active member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. He will be sworn in as a national president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives in August 2021. Thomas is a combat veteran retired after 26 years of service with the Louisiana Army National Guard. In serving his country in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Captain Thomas earned the Combat Action Badge. Our next panelist, Lieutenant Eric Jones. Lieutenant Eric Jones is a graduate of Southern University A&M College with a bachelor's degree in political science. He has served in EBR Parish as a sheriff's deputy for 25 years. Lieutenant Jones is currently assigned to the Community Policing Unit. He is a man of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated by way of the Lambda Alpha chapter. Jones is also a deacon at Love Fellowship Ministries. Our next panelist is Leslie Richard Chambers. She serves as Deputy Executive Counsel and Criminal Justice Policy Advisor to Governor John Bel Edwards. She previously served as an Assistant District Attorney for East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney Hillamore III from 2009 to 2018. Chambers received her Bachelor's of Arts degree from Southern University A&M in 2003. She later received her Juris Doctorate from Southern University Law Center in 2018. Our next panelist is Lieutenant Lorenzo Coleman. At an early age, Lieutenant Lorenzo Coleman had an interest in law enforcement, knowing that police officers were able to serve and protect the community intrigued him. On September 5th, 1997, He pursued his passion and became a police officer for the Baton Rouge City Police Department. He has been on the police force for 22 years and has worked for Uniform Patrol, Motorcycle Division, Undercover Narcotics Division, Special Response Team, Special Response Team, Mounted Patrol Division, and Bicycle Patrol Division. On June 28, 2014, he was promoted to sergeant, and he has been in the street crimes unit for the past 6 years. Lieutenant Coleman has received the Medal of Merit Award and Life Saving Award. Lieutenant Coleman has escorted and done security for President George W. Bush Jr. and President Barack Obama. And our last panelist is Detective Brian Strong. He is the current president of the Magnolia State Peace Officers Association, Capital Chapter. Detective Strong is a 12-year law enforcement professional and graduate of Louisiana State University. Detective Strong is married with 2 lovely girls. This is the panelists for the discussion tonight.
Open that up to any panelists who want to speak tonight concerning common ground. Can we find common ground? And if so, where?
Testing, testing.
Yep.
I think common ground starts within the community itself and also with law enforcement. And one of the ways that you can do that is considering bridging the gap. The community has to become more open in terms of getting to know the officers that are patrolling their community and coming to the precincts that are in your community and meeting those men and women who come into work every day tirelessly and being able to put a face with the uniform, because what you see oftentimes is just the uniform. You don't get to know the person behind the uniform. And we are humans just like you. We are all on this panel one decision away from making a bad mistake. And as I tell people when I'm arresting them, whether they're a suspect or a victim, I'm no different than you. The only difference between me and you is that I have this gun and a badge. I'm no better than you. I have sons. I was 38 when I came into law enforcement. So I know some of the struggles that we face in our community. But some of what we face in our community, we have to learn to take responsibility for our actions.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to meet the law enforcement officers in our community. And we can't make everybody that puts that uniform on accountable for the actions for the few bad ones that do. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing now.
So our panelist speaks of a behavioral change, something that's not the current culture, nor perhaps has it ever been the culture. Getting out, going to a precinct, getting to know law enforcement, maybe in small rural areas, but I'm not sure that has been the culture. How do we change the culture? That's a great suggestion, but we know people don't just change their behavior overnight. What and how do we get people to embrace that behavioral change, which could bring us closer together, right? Close the gap where there's fear because of a lack of knowledge and or the wrong perception. Anyone?
So, greetings first. So one of the things that we try to do with the community policing efforts at the sheriff's office is what we bring forward our bike patrol, and we go out into the neighborhoods, and we allow them to see that everything is not about arresting or doing something that's I guess interacting with the law per se, but giving an opportunity for us to just meet each other at an even level and say what exactly the problem is, so that we can have an opportunity to address it and not make it seem like we're trying to enforce it. And so therefore that gives that level, that ease level of knowing that law enforcement is here to help you out. And we're here to be in the communities that we live in, because most of us, we live in the same area. You see our units when you pull into the neighborhoods, you go to the stores, we waving at one another. And so one of the things that we, thrive on is making sure that we handshake with the community, just making sure that we're a positive influence, every time we appear or every time we're out, and letting you know that you can reach out to us and, give us your number or give us contact information, or we give you our contact information, and making it so that we're not as though we're unapproachable. And it's on both sides of the coin, that we want to receive you as well in a positive light.
And I just want to add common ground. I think this is common ground, the fact that we're here right now, that we're doing this. Like Dr. Perry said, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because every interaction that you have with the police should not be a negative interaction. There should be an interaction with us where positive things get done. So that's why we're having this right now. I think education is a fact for common ground, where you can come here and ask questions and you can get that information and knowledge. So if you have a question or you feel like maybe something was not done properly, you have the proper resources and you know where to go to actually get that information. So if something needs to be done, you know where to go. So I think educating the community, us having events like this is common ground. Like Detective Watt said, I'm no different than anyone that's out there in this crowd. I just happen to have a gun and a badge.
And if I can just add some word to that, because Isaiah 1:18 tells us to come now and let us reason together. And I think that for me, as a kid growing up in the Holiness Church back in the day used to serve a purpose for reasoning. And you had various people who came from different walks of life. Where I grew up in the country, Kowalski and I grew up together. Our fathers who were preachers in that same church, you know, they followed strict guidelines and strict rules, if you will. But even with that, we had conflict sometimes, we had issues sometimes. And I think that leading with that consciousness of knowing that God requires us to reason together, if we can find a church where we can start having these honest conversations and realize that a lot of the people that you sit in churches with, these law enforcement officers, your government officials, like they just spoke a few moments ago, they are having the same issues that you're having. They're having the same types of conversations that you're having. Just because they wear a badge, that does not give them this cloak, if you will, of protection, that something that their children may find themselves into, they won't be subject to some of the same perils. They understand that just as well as anyone else. They see it every day. When I was a prosecutor, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to homicide scenes, and those homicide scenes, I can decipher the different types of screams. I can decipher the scream between a mother, a sister, a cousin, and that stuff still resonates with in the back of my mind. That's what these ladies and gentlemen up here deal with and have to process and go home with every single day. And then they get up and they come to community conversations like this to say, listen, we are here. We want to support you and know that we also need your support. And I think that that's the foundation that Isaiah 1:18 is seeking, to have everyone to reason together and to have that common ground.
I like it.
Just to add on to that, everything everybody said on this panel is 100% correct. But in realistically looking at it, the people that we need to reach, look out here, they're not here. These guys are out there in the street on the corner selling dope, walking around with guns and stuff. It's hard to get them here. So the only way that we can reach them a lot of times is in a negative sense, when they're coming in contact with the police, when they're doing something wrong. I'm the commander of the street crimes unit. And every time we come in contact with someone, even if they're under arrest, doesn't matter. The thing that really started working, and I noticed it, was start having a conversation with them. I asked them, what do you want to do when you grow up? You know, are you in school? I started having these conversations with them because it's like they're upset and they're mad at the police, and I let them hoop and holler and cuss and all that stuff, but I'm not taking that personal. I had to learn this. I hadn't always been this way now. I'm going to be 100, and anybody that know me will tell you I'm going to keep it real. I haven't always been that way. I was a hothead at one time also, but as I grew and came to understand, then I knew I had to change my way of policing. So when I would talk to these guys and I would start treating them with respect, and I'm asking them about what they want to do, and I'm giving them, you know, answers, you know, and ways to make their life better and what they need to do and change, and giving them a way out. Because we were working with the Brave Initiative, and they had over $1.6 million to where even if you had a felony record, they were willing to put you through a program to where you can get your GED for free. They would help you fill out your resume. They would take you to where you can do your applications. They had companies plants. It was Stuck and several other companies. They would be able to make more money than as working in the plant with a felony record than I would as a police officer with none. Giving them that opportunity, out of $1.6 million, I think it was probably about 12 guys that went through the program, and that's sad.
So that brings up a bigger, let me deal with the issue of common ground. I want everybody to think, even the audience, common ground. Can we find common ground? When you think of common ground, that's finding mutual interests, right, and of the same opinions, finding a mutual interest and or being of the same opinion or perspective about an issue, common ground. When you think about law enforcement in African American experience, primarily in the U.S., who created that narrative that law enforcement is to, instead of protect and serve, contain and control? Where did that narrative come from? From people's experience, what they saw, whether it was in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. And how do we now reshape that narrative? If you think about it now, when people refer to the police, it's, I'm going to call the police on you if you do something bad. That's how we're viewed. Now you even have a sector that, when I want to hurt you, I'll call the police on you, even if you didn't do anything wrong, but you're black. And we know that black people are going to have a hard time with law enforcement. That's another narrative that in the African American experience that we have to overcome. Finding common ground. What is the common ground with the community? Whether it's impoverished kids, and I'm not just dealing with poverty, but I mean, you got middle class people who are afraid of the police. I have people who are in the legal profession who are telling, I'm afraid of the police if my child gets pulled over, and you know, they are upstanding blue collar, if not white collar citizens. There's this real fear that exists, and how do we find what is the common ground? What is the common ground where the police can do their job, protect and serve? The public can make their value contribution in a capitalist society where industry and trade is controlled by private citizenship. By your sheer birthright, you can create generational wealth and transfer it. That's the American dream. Law enforcement is to maintain that concept, give everybody a piece of the pie, supposedly. Somehow that's distorted. You got fear by law enforcement of the public, especially people of color. So we got fear from the public, but also fear from law enforcement. Where is the common ground? What is the mutual interest? How do we say that to the community? And the community say that to law enforcement? Am I making sense? What's the common ground?
I think the common ground is basic humanity and the acknowledgement, regardless of whether you wear a badge or not. Because I firmly believe that people who were traditional bullies in school, or maybe were bullied in school, find being a law enforcement officer as a way of getting back at the bullies, right? And unfortunately, some of those folks make it through the academies, and that isn't necessarily a policing issue. It gets converted into a policing issue because they become police, but it's a humanity issue. How do they see themselves? How do they see other people? And so there has to be a call to, I think, responsibility of self first. And how do we do that across the board, and to reach people independent of whether or not they have a badge before they get a badge? This detective just said that she didn't become an officer until she was 38 years old. But I have known her work to know that she is a person of integrity, and she was a person of integrity clearly before she became a law enforcement officer. So that's the issue. that people lack integrity as human beings, they lack compassion, they lack the ability to reason and to have common ground because their personalities just don't jive with common ground. And then converting that into having that responsibility of what that badge requires them to wear.
Ellis,
Yes.
I'm just sitting here listening to all the questions. It's great talk. Everybody's doing good. People, we just got to get back to the basics, okay? We lost common ground years ago. I could say, back, I grew up in the 70s. So neighborhoods were actually neighborhoods. Every neighbor knew every neighbor. We had gatherings. We used to hold hands, sing songs. Then all of a sudden, the politics got involved. They broke up the school system. So now, you go to school from kindergarten to 5. Middle school, we didn't have middle school. We had junior high school. They had to go 6 to 8. We had the neighborhood school that the parents were actually involved in the PTA, come to the kids' events, community was involved. But all of a sudden, the politics took over common ground. But now we got to start focusing on common sense now. Because we got to stay safe out here, people. Like I tell people every day, I've been a lot of the community meetings. I've been all over the nation on community panels, U.S. senators. They be talking, and I'll just be listening. I'm just a person that will keep it real and just tell you the truth. We're losing it. But we can make it better. So when we do this community initiative, Baton Rouge get all this grant money. Renzo said we got $1.6 million for the Brave team. We get some more money from the talk we had yesterday with President Biden. Well, we got to use this money. I'm just saying it's not the money thing. Everybody got to be on a level playing field. So when we counseling them, their kids, when Eric them in the community meet these kids, we got to talk to them parents. So we can fix up that kid, but soon he go back home, he's back in the same thing. Right. So when we making our outreaches, let's make the outreach. Let's see what education level that parent on. So let's set up some program for that parent. So the parent will get the same training that a child gonna get. So we just keep it basic. I'm just saying we didn't lose common ground. Common ground still there, just a core. And another thing, I grew up in the Church of God in Christ also, a long time ago. I remember the Memphis, Tennessee trip. I'm like, man, every November. But it's just, we just losing the basics, Pastor. We just got to get back. We got to expand the whole community. And you've been paying attention to the commercials on the TV lately. I don't know what medicine's dealing with. The more we get together, it's elementary school. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. Because your friend and my friend is your friend. That's what neighborhoods used to do. So when nothing for, I go to my next door neighbor, that parent will discipline me. Somebody from 4 blocks down the street could discipline you. You're going to go home, your mom going to take care of you again. So people always say, well, they come from a single parent household. I came from a single parent household. I don't make excuses for come from a single parent. My mom did an excellent job. But it's up to the individual to decide what they want to be. But they graduate and go to school. We got to get these kids educated. We got to get this. Poverty is going to be poverty. Well, we can fix it. Let's get in the basics. That's my thank you.
And I would like to add a little bit to what he said, because that resonates very well with what I see, what Lieutenant Coleman sees, with what Detective Strong sees, what everybody on this panel sees. There's a fracture in our community, a severe fracture. There's a fault line. These kids are constantly being pulled into a life in a street of crimes because they want to fit in. When I come in contact with these young men, I kind of take it personal because I have 2 sons, 2 black sons, of course. I had one that wanted to be the thug, and I had one in the gifted and talented. The one that wasn't in gifted and talented, it wasn't because he didn't want to. He wanted to try to follow that street life. So when I talk to these parents, because I raised my sons on my own, I was divorced. My ex-husband lived wherever he wanted to live. But I caught holy hell trying to raise my sons in the house by myself as a single parent. But I know the perils. And she was saying, you can tell on these homicide scenes, it is a gut-wrenching cry of a mother that sends chills down your back. because that's her son. And every time I step on a homicide scene, I realize that could have been my son. And in some instances, the way it's going now, it could still be my son, but I plead the blood of Jesus over them each and every day to keep them covered and protected. But we have to get back to our communities. We have to fix the very thing that he said. Nowadays, you cannot tell a parent anything about their child because little Johnny didn't do it. And she will curse you out, and she will hide him, aid and abet him. So while we're sitting here, like he said, common ground is common sense. We got to fix our communities first. We have to take back our communities. That's where the common ground is going to stand, because these young men are smarter than you would ever think they are. They're no dummies. Straight A's, straight B's. But because they don't want to be labeled as the nerd, they don't want to be labeled as the sellout, they tend to go towards that life of crime. By the time they're 24, their rap sheet is so long, they feel that they have no choice but to continue that life of crime, because in their mind, who's going to take a chance on me?
Yeah.
So until we get out in these streets, put the badge and the gun back, put our titles back aside, put our pride aside, and go in these communities and do the groundwork, what we're doing here is just a bunch of talk.
So I'm taking notes. Get back to the basics, finding common ground between the public and law enforcement. I don't want this conversation to go strictly about reducing crime, because I know a lot of people who are not committing crimes but still are afraid of law enforcement and have an indifferent attitude about police officers, about law enforcement. They're not pro law enforcement. When we as taxpayers, this is part of the government service to the community. It's a value add. How does something that's supposed to be a value add get turned into something that's so negative until we're saying defund the police? And some people don't even know what that really means. But you know, it's just like, you know, do we even need the police? You know, they only show up to, and I'm not talking about little Johnny who's packing, and I'm talking about everyday working citizens who have this negative perception about law enforcement because they're not the positive reinforcement we need to have in our community when it comes to finding common ground between law enforcement and the public. So I hear humanity. I love that. Back to basic humanity. Every life matter. Education. We find common ground. So if I'm talking to little Johnny or I'm talking to Mama Sue on the corner, you know, education is so important if we're to have a civilized, systemic, and sustainable society where everybody can participate. And if we talk about social justice, the equitable distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges that are going across an economic system. How do we ensure, we talked about eradicating poverty, reinforcing there's no future in crime. Education, again, I think that helps us find common ground, right? Where we can agree to mutual interest, but then we can further the interest. There has to be collaboration between law enforcement and the public to further our common ground, to further our mutual interests.
So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the political component in this, because I think that this thing starts from the top down. And I think everyone in here obviously heard the bio that I served for Governor Edwards. One of the things that Governor Edwards did post the issue in related to Troop F was Colonel Reeves retired, and Governor Edwards brought in Colonel Lamar Davis. Colonel Lamar Davis is from this community. Colonel Lamar Davis has the same experiences as all of these law enforcement ladies and gentlemen up here have. And he also has a black son. He knows what it means to live black in America independent of wearing a badge. And what I can say, without saying too much, is that Colonel Davis recognizes the issues within the department from a historical perspective. And that acknowledgement is where it has to start. Then we have to have action, right? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for. And understanding what action can and cannot be taken, I think, is what is lost in the messaging in our communities through the media or what have you. I think a lot of people may not necessarily know or are aware that officers are protected by a Bill of Rights. State police has their own Bill of Rights, and then local law enforcement has their own Bill of Rights. You can't just get rid of a cop. It may sound like an easy solution when you see these incidences happening, but you just can't fire a police officer. And I think that when you have someone who is leading a department who recognizes the challenges in the community, recognizes the challenges that all of these officers have indicated, recognizing the challenges that there may be some police officers who are exceeding their authority, who are using excessive force, who are abusing their badge. It takes that leadership to figure out ways and how to create that systematic change within those departments. And so when you do that, then you may start to see some changes on the streets as it relates to police officers' contact with our citizens. And you also have to be engaged in the legislative process, because that's another piece of this thing, right? These bills, these laws that protect certain officers who commit wrongful conduct, those laws have to change. There were several bills that were passed, 2 bills really, that were passed this past legislative session, this session that just passed, relative to the Officers' Bill of Rights, relative to officers not being able to leave one department after being involved in wrongful conduct and then jumping ship and going to another one. No, their record follows them. They can't just forum shop from police department to police department. And then there's also legislation relative to body cams. There's just so much. There was a police reform task force that met for an entire year, and that task force consisted of a wide range of community partners, law enforcement from the state and local levels, even the unions, they were a part of it, and they came up with 18 recommendations to suggest changes from a legislative perspective, because if the legislation doesn't change, then you won't see a lot of the changes happening on the ground. So that's what I mean when I say it starts from the top down. That's where your common ground has to take place. It has to take place at the top, because someone has to be there to understand and acknowledge all of the issues, and to also find a way to create resolutions so that we don't continue to see this bad conduct.
Can I speak to the bad conduct? And I was thinking, poor conduct, how many of the police officers who've committed these egregious acts or violations of people's civil rights and even taken people's lives actually regret it? Meaning, in the heat of the moment, I made a bad judgment and I regret it. Perhaps 80, 90% of them in the heat of the moment would say, I regret that decision. But let's face it, how did we come to that decision? How did it escalate that quick? Emotions, an element of fear, the unknown. The officer could lack the emotional intelligence. You know, we all would like to think we know what we would do in that moment, but we don't know. We don't know what that person, what's on their mind, etc. These are high, intense environments that we place many times low-paid officers who lack sometimes the proper training, the proper experience. And my flight was canceled the other day because a pilot couldn't fly because he's only allowed to fly so many hours a day, and the pilot has to get rest because he has to be alert to be able to handle turbulence, issues, because people's lives are at stake. How many police officers work overtime, extra duty, tired coming to work, fatigue, high stress, and we put them out there on the front line in high intense areas? I don't know, I'm asking, is there some requirement as it is with pilots where a law officer can't go work all these extra, if that is the case, and then come report for duty, tired and fatigued, blood pressure high, on edge? Somebody speak to that.
Yes,
There
sir.
there is, I think it's 16 hours, is that right, Lucan? 18 hours. But just to answer your question, the first part of it, as for me personally, I never wanted to pull out my gun in this job. Never wanted to. And I remember sitting in an academy class and they tell you stories, you see videos, and I just remember praying to God like, Jesus, please don't ever get me in a situation where I have to use deadly force. And that's something that most people need to realize. That is not something that we want to do. That's not something that you want to put our families through. I mean, when you have to go through something like that, they plaster our faces all on the news, your family, officers, I've heard their children, are getting harassed. It is just not a situation, not for us and not for the public. When those situations arise, just like in anything, an investigation has to be done. All the detectives and officers out here, we deal with facts, we deal with evidence. Sometimes there's videos that you see where you get a 20-second clip and it looks bad. I admit that. But we just ask for patience. And what I want everybody to know is just let investigations and let the facts come out. And when those facts come out, look at everything, and then you can make an informed decision about whether something was done right or wrong. Nobody wants to pull out their gun, to answer your question, Pastor. Nobody ever wants to, at least for me, and I'm pretty sure everybody up here, nobody ever wants to take somebody's life. But when we did this job, we knew that it's something that we might have to do. I might have to protect myself if somebody comes at me with a knife or shoots at me or points a gun at me. I have a wife. I have girls that every night I pray when I put my girl to sleep. I say, God, please let me come back and see my daughter.
So would you say there are no Clint Eastwood's, make my day, attitudinal? Because the whole make my day is, I want to pull it out. God don't make my day. There are no officers that are make my day officers.
I'm talking for myself, but one thing I tell you about now in 2021, we have accountability. We have body cameras. We have different aspects that we did not have back then when you were growing up, you said in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah.
Back in those days when a police officer said, this is what happened, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Our word was, that's what happened.
Yeah.
2021, if we don't have our body camera on to show that's what actually happened, it's called accountability. Without accountability, and if it wasn't for, like she said, Ms. Chambers, from the top down, you had political figures that fought for us to have these body cameras. And I enjoy the body cameras because, they actually tell the truth. Sometimes we get people complain on us, and we say, okay, they go look at the body cameras, and if I was wrong, that body camera's gonna say I was wrong. If they were right, they're right, and then I'm gonna get what was due to me.
Gotcha.
But I think what the public is looking for from us is just the truth and accountability.
I agree. I want to go to the, we may have questions in the audience, but.
Being a supervisor, it's a supervisor's responsibility to know his people and his team. If I seen somebody having a hard day, had a bad day at home, fatigue, looking tired, I'm not gonna let them go out there on patrol.
Yeah.
But the supervisor got to be responsible, stand up, and send that guy home.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna let you work all the extra duties, 16 and 18 hours, because that's a health hazard, because you gotta think that vehicle is a weapon by itself.
Exactly.
That vehicle is a weapon. So we just gotta be more alert, supervise, lieutenants, strong, y'all know. We got to pay attention to our personnel. And I can really say, police do not wake up saying, hey, I'm gonna violate somebody's civil rights today. Put my badge on, put my vest on. It don't happen like that, people. I'm just gonna be honest with you, it don't happen like that. But you see them type of people, you know the ones. If I see it, but they ain't gonna try that around me no way, because they know I'm just a boisterous, and I'm gonna tell you. That's just me. But we gotta make sure we stay on our supervisors and make sure they're doing the right thing. We gotta get the officers trained. I tell my department all the time, we just can't send you to no in-service put on by our department. So let's see how strong department trained. They gonna see how our department trained. We need to all start meeting together, start coming with some common ground to see how everybody's staying on one page in Baton Rouge. You know, in Baton Rouge, you got 9 law enforcement post-certified agencies right here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Wow.
So you gotta think, that's 9 different policies, 9 different set of rules. They rule might be, hey, you work 24 and come work some more. So we need to sit down with some common ground with that so we can make Baton Rouge better. Then I can build a trust back in the community because, hey, they seeing all these department heads getting together, trying to make Baton Rouge better. And we'll be more alert. We gotta be careful, people. And I can honestly say, I feel good. I've been doing this 30 years. I don't think I'd never have to put my firearm out.
You blessed.
That's blessing.
It's blessed, yeah.
But I have, people say I have that mouth. I have a mouth. And see the kid from Stroman. What year you graduated from Stroman? Man, that's been long. So I was the police at that school, and you had the police at that school. But the kids remember you from that time. They still remember you. But you like I'm saying, you gotta be careful. Just know your environment. I tell people, I don't get excited about no call. I'm not putting no siren going on because your house got broken. I'm just gonna be on. So I'm gonna kill 12 people trying to get to your burger. Do that make sense? So now I'm held responsible because I'm killed 2 people, ran them off the road. Now I really, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm feeling bad for that. So what I'm saying, the common ground just start like Pastor, always gonna come to common sense.
Yeah.
You don't have to rush to every scene. Homicide, it's a sad thing, it is. But you're not getting, you ain't gotta get 100 miles an hour and take somebody else's life trying to, we just gotta be careful. And you got some good officers in Baton Rouge, you really do. And the thing with the police, bad police and stuff you see, it's the media. But you just can't take too much of that media. Because I'm a media person. I watch Fox, CNN, get this other network now. It's way worse than Fox. I can't think of that one. One American Network. That's it. But you got to be focused and just don't get caught up into that. So get to know the departments that's in your area. Because we can't control what's going on around America.
So you speak of media. How do we take back the narrative? Media is an outlet, but I think our media has been hijacked. Is it by big business or what have you? But then how do we come out with our own, press statements and visuals that we want to, as we create the perception and not leave it up to someone to form it on their own? Is there something law enforcement can do more to help create the right narrative in the media and the community?
We have a PIO assigned to the sheriff's office. So she do some positive things, like we do stuff in the community, especially with community police. And we go to a school, to a special event, we're gonna advertise that. When Brandon do the Thanksgiving meal giveaway, we always put that on the news, just people actually seeing the police out in the community, they serving. We also do a big Halloween thing we do in Gardere. So we show the positive thing that police are actually doing. Tell the negative, so that tones it down a lot. Then you have the right officer. I'm saying the people in the community, they know you. They know you, they're gonna tell you, they're gonna greet you. I don't care how bad the situation is, on a bad scene, somebody gonna come to you, man, thank you for your service. That makes you feel some kind of way when somebody do that.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm just saying, so you gotta have the right PIO, the right events going on, and that tones it down, because we just gotta build that trust. And at the end of the day, people, law enforcement, it's just 3 words that people wanna know in the community. It's 3. Trust, trust, and trust. That's it. So we got to bring that trust back to the communities. They go, and people feeling it. They feeling it now because they do some great things. Renzo, I'm saying, he involved in his team, but they always out in the community. We do community walks. We had one Monday. We do community walks. We go door to door. We serve food. That's one. But we just got to bring it back, people, and just work together. Like I said in a song earlier, you got to be friends. But it will help us all 9 agencies in East Baton Rouge Parish come to one common ground, which would be big enough right here, Pastor.
Yeah.
Just have them just sit down, just see what's going on, because everybody got different policies. Everybody has different policies.
Let me speak on 2 of your points right quick. And one of them was the Wild Wild West. That's a false narrative that's been put out by the media. You don't have those role per se cops that come to work like he just said, and today I'm going to kill somebody. That doesn't happen. That's a false narrative, and we need to kill that narrative now, because that's a big weight. Regardless of what you may see on that television screen in that moment, that person still has to live with that decision that they've made. When it comes to the media and creating that trust, and how do you get the positive stories out there? The media doesn't want the positive stories. All the things that the community policing divisions are doing, Lorenzo has done, Strong is up here doing, where's the media? Besides you streaming it on Facebook.
I agree.
He saved someone's life. Where's the media for that? You know, you're not getting that. But what you do get is that 10 minutes where I have said something to someone that they didn't like and necessarily agreed with, but you didn't see the 30 minutes of me talking to them and constantly talking to them and literally begging them. All you get is that last snippet. And then based off that one snippet that you've seen, you have formulated an opinion based off of 30 seconds. Same thing happens when there's an officer-involved shooting. You want the process to be rushed because there's an officer-involved shooting. But when it's your loved one, you want the process to be handled properly. In order for justice to be served, the scales have to be balanced on both sides. The same process applies when I investigate a homicide, applies to that officer that just took someone's life. He's no different. He shouldn't be treated any different. Don't rush the departments to put out a statement to appease an audience that wants a right then answer.
Correct.
Because a right then answer is rushed.
And
then when they come back to clear up what was thought to have happened because they rushed the investigation, then you're saying that we're not transparent and you lied, or they're hiding something.
Correct.
Let the process unfold.
And when it's rushed, and if a mistake is made, if that officer was wrong because of that one mistake for it being rushed, he gets off.
Well, Pastor, you got to think. If anybody know the history of law enforcement, when the first police came out back in 1800s, what were police used for? To catch slaves, right?
Yes.
So you think that from that point, police were used to catch slaves, and it was us, it was blacks. So you go through history, all of a sudden now black officers are able to become police officers. So now you got to look at the things that we put in our kids. It's going from one generation to the next.
Correct.
Okay, my mama told me about things when picking cotton in the fields and stuff, and how the police came there and done things. And then I started seeing, police coming to my house because my mom and dad fussing and fighting, and see how the police act. But then it takes us to come together and stand up against stuff like that.
Correct.
You got to. And we got to break this cycle. And it's like we got to, because there's so many parents that go out there and tell, like you said, Pastor, tell their kids, if you do this, I'm going to tell the police on you. He's going to take you to jail. That's programming our kids to not like the police. And this is something that has to stop. And then on top of that is we have to get back to the love. I mean, it's just bottom line. Because when you start taking God out of church and you can't, and I mean God out of the schools and all this type stuff, all this stuff is gonna happen. And it's like the Bible is basically fulfilling itself. We living in Revelation right now. Let's be honest. But it's like we have to get ourselves right. Every individual have to get themselves right with God. And then until then, it ain't gonna do nothing but get worse and worse. And that's just being honest.
Let me go through a few questions, just quick answers that I want to make sure we ask for people who are watching who send in questions. One question: should police officers live in the city they patrol? 30-second answer.
I live in my hood, and I'm right here in the city. It's not stopping crime.
It's a benefit, but you're gonna hear some law enforcement departments say that they can't hire anyone from their areas.
Gotcha.
That's a major problem as well.
All right, so it's a benefit, necessarily not something that can necessarily be fulfilled due to, again, the lack of interest on the community and people available for those jobs. What are the qualifications to become a police officer? And at various agencies, so 30 seconds, somebody speak to Baton Rouge City Police.
High school diploma, 21 years old, no criminal record, no felony record, put it that way.
And we do a physical fitness test and a psychological test.
You have to be registered to vote.
Registered to vote.
The psychological
It
test.
varies.
So they do go through a psychological test, because one of the questions are, what kind of training do officers receive?
Oh, it's so much training that they receive, but it's one thing you have to remember, and this is one thing I'm gonna make this quick. If you came 21-year-old, never been in a fight before, not to say you were bullied or you bullied somebody, but you never been in a fight before. You put on that badge and you get in the street, and all of a sudden you're in a fight, and you get punched for the first time in your life.
Wow.
You ain't gonna know what to do.
Know what to do.
This is why they start instilling this training into the academies. You get your butt whipped in the academy. So you know when I get out there on the street and this same thing happened, I've been there before, I've been hit before. So I don't have to pull my gun and shoot.
Wow, that's good. Interesting. What is excessive force?
I guess I'll talk about that. Excessive force is going beyond the force that is needed to take the person into custody. So, but everyone has a different perception of what's excessive
needed.
Force is.
Yeah.
Because if someone comes at me and they're getting ready to punch me in the face and I hit him first one time and he's knocked out, someone can look at that and say that's excessive force. But a lot of people are starting to, it's almost to the sense of police are expected to go out there and get beat up or get killed because it's like you want us to wait and take until our life is almost, endangered or in the threat of losing our life, Yeah. But there are ways to do things, and you have to be, practice your skills so you can be on top of your game. And I hadn't exercised in a while, but stay fit. So where if an altercation does take place, you're able to end it quickly without you getting hurt. That's what I love about the taser, because the taser, it ends it quick, and no one has to get hurt, not the suspect and not the officer.
Gotcha.
But when used correctly.
When used correctly.
Well, excessive force,
and
I
I-
handle complaints all the time. Being the commander at the station, they come there. He yelled at me. I ain't like the way he yelled at me.
Yeah.
But he ain't had to say it like that. He could, so excessive force is a broad topic. I'm saying you can go from A to B real quick, so.
And I just wanted to say, a lot of the stuff that you see, what we do is not pretty work. Taking somebody into custody who is actively resisting, who does not want to go to jail, when we have to do that, it is not pretty. Detective Watts is, in me, it would take all my strength to actually physically put her down on the ground, if she's actively resisting, and put her hands behind her back and put handcuffs on her, that is not going to look pretty. We're not bad boys where we know all these karate moves and it looks pretty. So when you see those kind of things, keep that in your mind. When somebody's resisting us, when we have to use force, it's not a pretty thing that you're going to see. I just wanted to put that out. Because when people see that, if they see us putting hands on people and having to, put them in handcuffs, it looks bad, and they just assume that that is excessive force, but it's not.
Yeah. When is an officer justified in using deadly force?
That's easy when our lives or the life of somebody else is in danger
The
of being
force
killed or being put in serious bodily danger.
The force has to be reasonable under the circumstances. That's the legal definition of it.
The force has to be
Reasonable under the circumstances.
Reasonable under the
And that
circumstances.
officer who is dealing with that particular circumstance has to make a quick determination as to whether or not the force that they're using is reasonable or unreasonable.
I've seen in certain situations where it appears the officer doesn't have patience to try and talk to this, to diffuse it. It's like, you ain't going to do what I say, do immediately, and it gets escalated. Is there any training around, I've seen some officers with certain people in the community take 15, 20 minutes, talking nice, kind, waiting on the patient. The other one looks like he got to go to lunch. I ain't got time for this. And, it escalates real quick. I'm just curious, is there any training around, when is enough time? I've tried to talk to you, et cetera, to get you to understand this is the law. We've got to take you into custody. Or is it just left up to the discretion of the officer?
No, there's a lot of training.
And it just depends on the totality of the circumstances at that time. Some calls we don't have time, depending on what type of call it is. If it's a code 3 call, you don't have time to sit there and play patty cake. This is a hot situation. I'm going to talk to you, but you have to understand, our job in that moment on those hot calls is to maintain control of the situation. It's not pretty to you all, but for my safety and for your safety as well, we have to do what's ugly. We have to do what's ugly because a situation can escalate from 0 to 10 in a matter of seconds. I might be the first officer on scene. Other units might be coming from way across town, and it's just little on me and about 2 big dudes like Lorenzo and Strong. I'm not playing patty cake with them. We're going to get this handled, and I'm going to hold this scene safely as possible until the other units arrive.
Let me ask you this. Is there a legitimate fear certain police officers, white or black, have of other black men?
That's something that has to be answered because it's like you can't answer for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've got white guys that work for me, and I've seen them police in the neighborhood, and none of them seem to be afraid because a person is black, And I've sat up there, and a lot of times, me being the supervisor, I pop up on their calls, and I listen how they talk. This is something, I did this today. And they know, I go back, and I get to looking at body cam footage. I want to see how you acting when I'm not around.
Mm-hmm.
That's called being transparent and accountable. As a supervisor, it's my job to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. I go back and I'll be in the office all day, and I'll be looking at body cam footage just to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And that's something that needs to be done. And and the public don't know this. In internal affairs, who do you think most of the complaints come from on police officers? 90% is police officer on police officer.
Wow.
See, because everybody think it's this brotherhood. Oh, they gonna stick together. They gonna back each other up when they do wrong. I don't play that. Do something wrong around me and see what happens. I'm telling.
Gotcha.
And I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna get in trouble and lose my career for something you doing.
Gotcha.
And then I'm not gonna sit there and let you mistreat nobody either, because I would do the fool.
Yeah. So are you obligated? Is it part of your responsibility to informed if something. So I think the public needs to know that as well, that you're under obligation to report if there's been impropriety or some misconduct by another law enforcement officer.
Yeah, it's morals, you know.
Yeah.
It's morals. I'll call you out on the spot. Strong no. We work in the same office. Kaylee knows. If I see it, I'm going to pull you aside and talk to you about it.
Yeah.
If it's to the level where it needs to be reported,
Got to report it.
it's my moral obligation.
That's right. That's
because if you're doing it in front of me, you have no regard, so I can only imagine what you're doing out there in the streets.
Wow.
That's just duty to intervene, people.
Yeah.
That's it. Just intervene. You see
Intervene.
some foolishness, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
The reason I asked the question about fear, and I think we have some questions in the audience, we got to wrap up in about 10 minutes, is fear is common in our own community. Like black people are afraid of black people. So I was asking, is there somewhat facetious here about police officers, because I want to know, how do you train police officers to get over the fear of 4 or 5 big black dudes over there, 4 or 5 white guys over there? Because you see the reports, oh, he looked like a tough guy, he looked like a bad guy. You hear it when you get the news clips of what the police officers are saying when they're looking at us as black men sometime. How do now I go through my training as a police officer, how do I get over the fear of African-American gentlemen standing on the corner, looking rough, mean, and tough? Do I treat them with the same respect? Do I see them the same way I see another race? Because that's real, and we all know that's real.
Because actually we do have training. They have what they call procedural justice, and everyone, the entire department, is mandatory to go through this class.
Procedural justice.
Right.
I like that.
So basically what it is they go through the history of policing, while, when I was explaining about slavery and all that type stuff, how police were used to capture slaves, and they open a dialogue because a white person isn't prejudiced, a lot of times they don't know our struggle and what our ancestors went through. So a lot of them feel that, but I'm not prejudiced. I wouldn't do that. That class is not for you then. It's for the one that's next to you that's undercover. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like, so they take us through this training, and you have to go in with an open mind, and sometimes it gets heated amongst the police officers, But that's our way of, we have to open it up and we have to express how we feel, and trying to get each other to understand. And it's the same way with the police department, with the community. It's like you have to sit down and have this dialogue to where you can see where I'm coming from, but I have to shut my mouth and listen to you and see where you're coming from, and we both try to understand each other.
Awesome.
Question
Question from the audience. Yes.
Procedure justice, I'm saying that's a good class. When you say when you had the 4 white officers and the 4 black officers, it all fall on that supervisor. Because first, everybody got a radio in their vehicle and a hand radio, okay? If I feel somebody getting in a heated situation, I know what deputy is patrolling that sector, I'm going over there. Because I might be the boss to stop something from escalating.
Yeah.
So it's not our fault that we hired them guys. It's not our fault. Because we don't know what's in a person's heart till something happens.
Correct.
Okay? So everybody got different fears. Most people in the room scared of snakes. I'm not. Okay? So you got to think about different people's fears. I'm just saying, we just can't work on nobody's fears because we don't know, but that supervisor got to make that decision. Don't put them out there in no area where you know it's hostile and something might happen quick, and Don Lemon knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how quick it can get.
Yeah, exactly.
So Lorenzo being the lieutenant, he knows his makeup of his men. So I'm not going to put him in no situation to get involved in that. But he got to be a police officer. So it all falls on the supervisor.
We need to get him his own talk show, right? Agree. He need to get his own talk show.
Yeah, I'm having a talk show.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. We got a question from the audience.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Pastor Ellis, for hosting, and thank everybody on the panel for coming. And I just wanted to make a comment about my experience with the police. I've never had an issue. I've never been afraid of the police because the relationship that I had with the police when I was in elementary school. I'm 59 years old. I grew up in the Callio Projects in New Orleans, and we had an Officer Friendly. Officer Friendly was in our public school system. He was there every week. We knew him. I mean, he just was with the kids. He explained things. He had coloring books, and he talked to us. So that never was a problem with the fear. Now, I get disheartened when I see the things that are happening, but I'm not afraid. And because of Officer Friendly, it just diminished that fear in my heart with police officers. So I would just encourage you, as we talk about common ground and relationship, we have this grown-up, because I also work with inner city kids, and, it's catching them when they're young. And it's like, we're trying to continue to help this generation, but it's that next generation that's very important for it to go forward and to get that relationship back. And as you said, our older people have become so afraid to report. And what you said, sir, trust, trust, trust.
Awesome. Anyone else? Question in the back.
Good evening. Officer Mitchell with Baton Rouge City Police Department. I'm also from the Callio Projects in New Orleans, Louisiana. Grew up on Errata and Russia Blade, so we need to talk after this is over with. But we talked a lot tonight about how police can come to a common ground, but we didn't mention a lot about how the citizen, the average citizen, can come to common ground to also help in a community, help police do their job, help different agencies and different organizations within the community to come to common ground, because we go to calls all the time and we see different things that police have to deal with, but it's always a little bit. I work in 4th District in North Baton Rouge, Dixie, and Brookstown, and it's not a lot of times where we see people coming to a common ground to help police in their situations. It's always police, coming to a common ground to help the citizens. So can anybody give us a suggestion or help the community with coming to a common ground with police instead of police always being the pushing factor or the force to come to that common ground?
Are you speaking in regards to reporting crimes or assisting with crimes?
Reporting crimes, assisting with putting out information or giving up suspects and stuff like that.
One thing that I try to drive home when I'm out on scenes or just talking to people in public in general, I know they don't want to talk to us, they don't like us, they don't like the police, it's just what we deal with. But there's a number that you can call, 344-STOP. There's no way in knowing who's calling in what. So you as a uniformed patrol officer, if you can just start driving that message home, call into Crime Stoppers, there's no way in knowing who that person is on the other side of the phone. It also goes back to building that trust, because once your face becomes well known in Brookstown and Dixie and in 4th District, and they build up that trust, they're not gonna talk to you right there on scene, but they're gonna get in touch with you some kind of way and say, hey, look, this is what I heard. Let the detectives know this is what happens. So it's like it's a two-way street, but one of the things that you can do is just encourage the public to call Crime Stoppers, because that would help out a lot with what's going on in the community.
I would add really, really quickly, because someone made a comment about their children, right? And having disobedient, it starts with disobedience for sure, but when you've got a child that won't comply, that's always in trouble, et cetera. I want to put a plug in for the Truce program here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Call it's CALLATRUCEBR.org. And that program is designed to empower youth to save their lives and to live productive lives. And that program is generally catered to children who are constantly getting suspended, constantly getting in trouble. If you reach out to them and through that website, I'm pretty sure you'll get a response from that organization. They have the business community supports them, as well as local law enforcement agencies.
You know, to be on one accord with what the panelists are saying, is that each agency have a community policing division. So if there's an issue or there's a statement that you want to make or information that you're trying to obtain, just look under that department's directory, find a community policing agency or division, and contact them. And we have a list of numbers to several other agencies, one being TRUS, that we can reach out to try to get that, I guess, law enforcement arrest type answer for you, but get that answer that can help you bridge the gap to whatever, problem you may be having or issue, or clear up an answer that you received somewhere else that just was kind of confusing. So there's other community entities, that you can reach out to, and one of them is your community policing unit.
And I just want to add, you can always reach out to the Magnolia State Peace Officers Association.
And I'm also telling you can reach out to the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. We got a real good program of law in your community. We go out to different schools, different neighborhoods, different churches. We try to build that relationship with the community, which we actually put in the program on. James Jefferson is one of our lead instructors on it, one of y'all church members here. James, stand up, sir. So I'm saying you want a real experience, how it is. They got a nice skit we do with kids driving a car, what to do when you encounter the police.
Absolutely.
So it's an excellent program. We put it out throughout the nation. It's been on 60 Minutes. We done been on The View. We done been on all the national television networks with this organization with our Law in Your Community program. The federal government actually started it. If you're interested in having a law in your community, I see one of the other trainers patient in the back. If you want the program to come to your church, your community, your school, just give us a call. Just look it up on our webpage, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives.
Great question.
Yes, I'd like to speak briefly to 3 different things that I heard. First, common ground. In the Bible, let us come. So let the greater be the ones that go to the lesser. So we need to take the show on the road to where the people at. Most of us in here are on common grounds, and it's been well spoken of. The other thing that I like to speak to is the officers getting enough rest. I've worked 40 years with mental health patients, criminally insane. A 12-hour shift by itself is not actually a 12-hour shift, because it takes you 2 hours to get up and get ready, 2 hours to go home and break down and shower to go to bed. So a 12-hour shift is a 14-hour shift. A 16-hour shift is an 18-hour shift or a 20-hour shift. Working with mental health patients, when you report to duty, you don't know what they're going to do or when they're going to do it. When I hadn't had enough rest, trust me, I'm thinking about going home and saving my life. I'm not too nice on those days. And the same stress that I have to deal with working with criminally insane people with no weapons, they have to deal with it too. I didn't hear enough about anything to make sure that officers are getting enough rest. We might need to go for a pay raise so they don't have to work 3 shifts. They got a lifestyle to live. We might have to pay extra taxes to support that. But you cannot get a good police officer with 5 hours of rest. I don't care how you twist it. My last comment is there's no hothead police. Ask the Sterling family and the Floyd family.
In regards to officers getting the rest, I mean, you're exactly right. But you got to think, when the police departments are shorthanded, and a lot of people don't want to be the police.
Yeah.
Not only, because of everything that's going on in society, but they're looking at how much we get paid, and it ain't worth it. So therefore, when you get people that's coming in the academies, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep it 100. I might get in trouble later, but it is what it is. But I'm going to keep it real. So it's like you're not getting the quality that you need, because you're not, the pay isn't there. And we one of the lowest paid the police departments in the nation. And then it's like when you look at the rest, you look at the homicides that happen in all the shootings. So you're looking at, I done went and worked a 10-hour shift, and I go home and I lay down, then the phone ring. Hey, they got a shooting over here, a homicide over here. Y'all got to go respond to that. So while you're on that scene, and that takes hours to investigate. So you out there for hours, and you finally get back home again, and the phone rings again. They got another one. So you got to go out there again, and you looking at, officer ain't getting no rest. You see what I'm saying? And it's something that we have, it's not like, and I'm not speaking for all officers, because it differs depending on what division you're in. But it's not like a lot of us are just going working and we going to work all this extra duty trying to make all this money and stuff like that. No, a lot of it is because we have to respond because we don't have no choice. Because if we don't do it, you ain't got nobody else to do it. So that's why a lot of us have to work all the hours, even though we are exhausted.
So that is an issue, because the community expects a certain caliber of police officer, right? And then police officers should also expect to be paid at the rate of value that we contribute, or the police officers contribute to the community, right? And how important, what price tag do we want to put on that? So I think this is something that we have to continue to dialogue around, and with the right individuals, to ensure that we're not the lowest paid law enforcement group in the nation. The citizens of this community has to rise up and do something about it. I don't want to keep this brother standing. I think we have a question in the audience.
How you doing?
Great.
I think as far as the police, the problem, not with the police, but in the community, is social media and guns. You have guns, I mean, everywhere. Everybody, these kids got guns. You can get a gun like that. I could leave here and get a gun just like that. Yeah.
Where can you get it at, man? We want to know.
You want me to tell you?
Yes. Tell them where you get them guns
right. And I remember you from a strummer, yeah. But anyway.
I advise you, as the lawyer on the panel, not to answer that question.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, guns are so accessible. These kids that are dying, they're young, they're little boys, because they don't fight. These kids don't fight. They're not going to fight you. If you get into it with one of these little boys, you better kill him. He's going to kill you. I promise you he's going to kill you. And that's the way it is. So what you going to do about that? And the way these shootings are, after a shooting, they talking about it on social media. So, I mean, like, what you going to do? How you going to, what? That's a real issue.
They're not afraid of the judicial system.
They're not afraid. They don't care.
That's what it is, because like I say, they got the wrong person on the panel, because I'm going to keep it 100 with you. The judicial system is messed up, because a lot of officers are frustrated because we go out there and we give it our all, putting our life on the line, and we putting these shooters in jail, and before we can finish with the report, they back out with these low bonds. And this is something that we've been fighting for the longest, and y'all done seen it on the news? How many times you done seen you got a guy that's out on 3-4 bonds? How you do that?
He beat you home before you get off work.
Yeah. So you do a crime, go to jail, bond out. They tell you don't get no more trouble until your court date. You go do another crime, go back to jail. And that don't make no sense. And then until you kill somebody, and then the judge is sitting up there looking crazy.
Pastor, we have a question from Facebook. It says, BRPD Academy has the smallest numbers it's seen in a long time. What does the panel think the reason is for this?
Low pay, and people don't want to be the police anymore because of all the negative that's associated with being a police officer. Nobody understands, other than a police officer, what we go through when we put on that uniform. We are treated one way when we have that uniform on. When we take that uniform on, it's, oh, hey, how you doing? But the minute you have that uniform on, you're treated and handled in a totally different perspective, you carry the weight of every officer that has done something wrong.
That's
the
right.
public doesn't view you as any different. You are that officer. You're that officer that kneeled on George Floyd's neck. It's harder also as a black officer. The term is being black and blue, because we are criticized. Uncle Tom's, you working for the man. But one thing, if you don't take anything away from this panel, if there was no Strong, no Coleman, no Watts, no Thomas, and this young man on the end, if there was none of us up here, and none of these other black officers that you see sitting in this audience, where would the police force be then? Stop criticizing black officers for taking a stand, for wanting to go back into our communities and make sure that our communities are policed the correct way. That want to go back and give and have service to our communities, that have the mindset that if I save one person, one child, if my conversation with one child, whether he's going to jail for the rest of his life or I'm just talking to him in passing, if I save one child, how many generations have I saved in my career? That's all I need to do, just one. I don't care about the homicide stats, how many cases I've solved. That doesn't, I mean, I'm proud, I'm thankful. God has blessed me to be able to be in a position where I'm able to do that. But I'm here to make a difference and save just one child, because that's generation after generation after generation that I've saved. Stop bashing black officers. Stand by us. We need you more than what you actually think.
And the reason I agreed to come to this panel today, we need the community. We need more officers. We need black officers. Put in the application. The money's not rewarding. It's not. But you can make it work. Because you got to make a difference when you're patrolling the area.
Yeah.
Like I tell you, I can be honest with myself. I can't speak for everybody else. I didn't join the police office. I ain't joined the sheriff's office to get rich. I knew what we were making back in '89 when I took that oath. But I learned to supplement, and I started teaching myself how to prepare, how to save money. See, we got to get, I'm saying, that go back to the basic, what I bring up earlier, Pastor. We got these communities, people are still cashing check at check cashing centers. They don't go to the bank. They don't have a clue. Direct deposit. So they're going to pay the man at the check cashing place $40. So instead of us teaching these kids, we got to teach these kids the basic on everything. Getting their high school diploma, the first thing. Well, get them some financial literacy. They'll show them how to purchase a car with the right interest rate. They're the kind of cars we deal with. Especially, I hate income tax thing. Because it's hard, because them used car dealerships gets over on them and take advantage of them, and the car don't last 2 months. And I tell them it's cheaper to buy a new car.
So we got to get back to the basics for sure.
We got to get, man, you got, Pastor, that's where it started. You got to get it started coming to church. Go pick them up.
Yeah. We're going to address that. Let's last question. I got to let everybody go. It's
Yes,
almost...
are there any notification systems that anyone on the panel can have when you have an active event going on that you can send out an alert? Because on my old job, I am still receiving, information, stay out of the area, be on the lookout for, and they start giving you the symbol, acronym, so that we could be doing some things, Is there any agency that's represented on this panel that has a notification system that could be sent out or we can get signed up to?
I know Baton Rouge City Police doesn't. I don't know about the Sheriff Department, but I know you're looking at some money for something like that to send out something, to our entire neighborhood, to let them know that something's taking place. And a lot of times, you don't even know who's going to be over that type of system, because everything is so fluid with us. Everything is happening so quick. So I don't know who would have something like that.
So the sheriff's office, my PIO director, we have Twitter and a Facebook account, and we put a plethora of information out on that you can access, look at, and if it's something pertinent, you go to that, like community events and what have you. And it's in conjunction with alerts that you may get, safety or whatever. That's for your public view.
I was going to mention that too. We do have my department, social media, I think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we do the same way. If it's pertinent information that we need to get out to the public, it'll be on our social media platforms.
So as we wrap up tonight, I think we've shared a lot and given some ideas around what common ground could look like. And I just want to recap quickly. We said tonight, get back to the basics. Love humanity, education, transparency with our policing rules and regulation, trust, trust, trust. We've got to build trust. One police officer stressed the importance of leadership. If you're commanding a particular unit or commanding an arm of law enforcement, you've got to take the lead and understand where there is potential liability. We heard from the community, from our audience tonight, officer-friendly programming. Let's get back to celebrating law enforcement. The law enforcers who are doing it right, we've got to ensure that we're getting the right publicity and the right narrative around law enforcement. For the community, we talked about the community. I even heard about the Truce program and how well that's working. But all of these programs can exist, but if they're not targeting the right individuals and the community is not playing a part in identifying what we will call at-risk children, even at-risk adults, we all probably know somebody who's at risk for either committing a crime, a serious crime. It could be domestically or because of whatever the issue is going on in their situation economically, committing some other type crime. We could, again, become aware more of where there is help in our communities. And I think churches can play a part in that. If we are informed of where are the agencies, I know in this church we do a lot to try and target and identify at-risk kids. We've had the Noble organization come and train our young men on what happens when you stopped by the police. That's a wonderful program, by the way. James Jefferson and the team came and did that. We've had other law enforcement officers come and share, again, as it relates to behavior and interaction and engagement. But still, it's not enough. How do we find more at-risk people and then leverage the resources we have as a nonprofit to target that community? I sit on the foundation board for the police department, and often I'm talking with Chief Murphy about how do we work collaboratively together to address the issues in our community where the churches are positioned to get in there. Where are you dealing with at risk? What zip codes? Why can't there be greater collaboration on how we partner together? And then a scorecard of success. Don't just talk at it. What is success for a church? Should we be doing this, this, and this? What is success for law enforcement? I think we need to keep working at how do we define success both now and moving forward if we're to really see some significant change in our community. I think we need to continue to have the conversation. We talked about low pay for police officers. Something needs to be done because that role needs to be attractive for both now and in the future. And I think those are conversations we will continue to have. I know Sister Christy has a survey tonight for those who participated either via on social media or in the audience. She would like for you to definitely to fill that out and give us some more information. Give this panel another rousing round of applause. For you who are even watching online, give us some likes, some thumbs up. Keep your questions coming in. We definitely want to continue our conversation, but more importantly, where there are resources and there's knowledge, again, we can make a difference. Dr. Christy Perry, thank you for putting on this panel tonight, and then I'll turn the last words over to you.
Thank you so much, Pastor. And again, thank you to our panelists. If you all can give them another hand, we have just a little bit of a token of our appreciation from here at United Christian Faith Ministries and from United Excel for you coming out and sharing such very valuable information with us. Also, I would like for everyone to make sure they have completed the survey. You can just turn it in at the back. You can take a picture of the QR code and you can complete it on your phone. One of the things we want to do is to help with community policing. You all have given us a lot of information tonight. So as we collect this, we will be presenting this so that we can help redo that program. I have one announcement of a community event that Noble has. Oh, who is it with? Okay.
It's going to be Truce, the sheriff's office, BRPD, it's the community walk that was mentioned earlier. It's Monday. We're meeting at 5 o'clock, 8200 Maplewood. That's Maplewood Park, and we're gonna start walking at 5:30. I'm not sure of the route just yet, but bring some comfortable shoes. Through the jungle. Everybody familiar with the jungle? Matthews, DeNova, that area behind East Fairlane. And it's Captain Thomas Patrol area. So anybody want to participate, y'all welcome to come out. We have some other ones that are already scheduled, but I don't know the schedule by heart. I just have that information for Monday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Real quick, if I can have my team to come up here, United Excel, and as they're coming, if you would like to be a part of United Excel, you can take out your phones and text 225-250-1970. Just text justice to 225-250-1970 to register for our next class. So here's our team. If you would just give our team a hand, and we have our assistant director, Monica Jean-Pierre, walking back there. We have Tammy and Nicole, and come on, y'all, our team. For the graduates tonight, we have some cake. So we would love to fellowship with you all a little bit. So if you all can just walk through the KD Ellis Hall and enjoy a slice of cake with us, we would love that. Once again, thank you for joining us. We don't take it lightly, and you all have a good night.